The Supreme Court will hear arguments in a challenge to Mississippi's ban on abortions after 15 weeks, a case that could lead to the end of Roe v. Wade. Alison, Centofante, and Carrie, Severino, Judicial Crisis Network president, are joining me now to discuss. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. Carrie, start with you. Set the stage for this week to review what is the crux of this Mississippi case known as Dobbs.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people assume that the Roe versus Wade is the only thing standing between the country and abortion being illegal across the country. But really what Roe just does is it takes the issue that's supposed to be in the states and let the states decide what they do, which means we'd have states that say it's legal in all 9 months. We have a whole range of options chosen by the states, and it takes it and makes it federalized. But the Constitution says nothing about abortion. That means it should be a question for the states. The Supreme Court will have the opportunity to then return that question to the states, and then, you know, everyone can go back home and decide for themselves, where do we think those lines should be drawn on this incredibly divisive issue that should never have been decided with a one-size-fits-all national solution.
The argument, though, against this is from people like this, the Mississippi Abortion Clinic, which is the final one there in Mississippi that can provide abortions. Here's what they write. Abortion is absolutely a racial and economic justice issue. The restrictive state laws are inherently racist and classist. They keep black and brown people down. And the research is clear. A woman who is denied an abortion is more likely to live in poverty even years later. Alison, the argument, of course, being I will have to go get an abortion in another state if I live in a state like Mississippi where in all likelihood, let's face it, if the Supreme Court does say it's a states' rights issue, states like Mississippi and a lot of conservative states are not going to allow abortions based upon certain time parameters. That's their argument. What is your response to that line of thinking?
Every single child deserves legal and societal protection, Todd. A person's a person, no matter how small, no matter their skin color, no matter their demographic, no matter the circumstances of their conception. We're so excited about this case because the court will finally have an opportunity to review Roe v. Wade and look at how much has changed since 1973 in terms of what we know of fetal development, what we know of prenatal embryology. And I want to point out the pro-life movement has also stepped up in those 50-plus years and supported women, moms, babies, families of all backgrounds ready to care for both of them. So we're looking forward and hoping for a good turnout here so we can finally protect all children. Mississippi has chosen to draw their line at 15 weeks. And as you point out, states may draw their lines at different points. Right. But it's time for the people to have power here and the ability to speak in to abortion laws in their state.
Carrie, besides the conservative tilt to the court that we know about, is there anything in prior decisions by these 9 justices that gives you some insight as to how this is going to be decided? Because, again, to your point, it seems like it's more about states' rights and less about abortion.
Yeah, I mean, we have the majority of the court right now who are originalists, who look to the original meaning and the text of the Constitution. This is really an open and shut case on that question. The Constitution doesn't say anything about abortion. Where it's going to really get interesting is when it comes to stare decisis. What do you do with a decision that you think is wrong, but do you apply it anyway? And the justices, you know, some people like Justice Thomas, who I clerked for, say, sorry, you just go with the Constitution. And then there are other people who say there are circumstances when you follow a wrong decision. But even Chief Justice Roberts, who's seen as probably one of the swing votes in this case, has spoken about how you don't get to rewrite precedent in order to uphold it. The court shouldn't be morphing it and trying to do everything they can to change the precedent to uphold it. And if there's ever a precedent that they would have to do that to be able to uphold, it's Roe. Already it's been rewritten by the court in the Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision. It's a decision that has been criticized from day one as badly founded legally. And I think the court will have to come to the conclusion at the end of the day that this is not the type of decision worth following when it's wrong. I think we need to clear the slate and start over so that we can get this big, important area of law right.
Understood. Carrie, Severino, Alison, Centofante, all eyes on the Supreme Court. We're going to see what happens. Thank you so much, ladies. Carly, over to you.